Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Lens podcast presented by Jot and X Paranormal. I am Jamie Widener, I'll be your host for the evening, and I'm joined as always by Kirstin Truccano and Mr. Chad Thomas.
Good evening.
Friends, how are we?
Hello.
I'm good.
Woo! We all made it. I didn't think I was, as usual, running around trying to get everything done before we get here. So deep breath, exhale.
You're good, Jamie. You're good. You're
All right. So how was your week? What's going on?
Go ahead, Kirstin. I'll let you start.
I'm still recovering from the weekend. It was very busy. I have a 1-year-old now.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she's driving.
Stop it. No, Saturday, with watching the air quality, we were actually able to take her to the Philadelphia Zoo for her birthday. And then Sunday was her birthday party. And a lot of running around, a lot of things to do, but it was a very good weekend. There's a lot of love from friends and family for Cassie, so
Well, that's good.
yeah.
So you get ignored by it at this point. You realize that, right? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, where's the baby? Right?
Listen, one day she'll probably make an appearance on the podcast, so then I'm fully ignored.
Mm-hmm. So
It's all good.
It's all good.
yeah.
Congratulations. That sounds really fun. I saw some pictures on social media of the day, so I think you all had a great time. Very cool.
Yeah. It looked like fun. So I completed my first week at my new job last week. So
That's right.
That went well, I think. I'm still there. They had me back this week. So, I mean,
Thank God.
yeah. I walked into my old building and they're like, "You look so relaxed. What's wrong?" I'm like, "Because I am relaxed." So,
At least it wasn't, what are you doing here?
well, I got that first. But I was delivering parts to them, so it was all acceptable. But yeah, it was interesting walking back in there and seeing how busy they are and remembering that's what I was doing a month ago. So anyway.
Nice.
But then this weekend, I did have an interesting experience. I went through I went and saw my friend who lives in Delaware, 2.5-hour drive, and had a past life regression. So more to come on that in the future, but it was definitely interesting. I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but I'm not a visual person. Like when I imagine things, I don't see, like if you say imagine an apple, I don't see an apple in my head. I hear that, like, I have the dialogue, but I don't see that. So doing things like a past life regression becomes interesting because I don't see images like most people do. I had a running dialogue and was getting information that way from my subconscious, or whatever you want to call that up that level. But it was really interesting. And the person who did it is going to come on the show when we do the show about past lives and explain the process and talk about what we learned. So
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's coming up soon, so it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about you, Jamie?
Well, I'm going to say this to be joking about it, but I'm pretty sure I had a time slip on Saturday because I honestly can't remember what I did. No idea. Something happened on Saturday. I'm sure it did. But Sunday was a lot of running around doing the stuff. I think it rained. Maybe that's why I don't remember. I don't know. But all the stuff I couldn't get done on Saturday wound up getting dumped into Sunday, which, household stuff. Of course, people were talking about that. But, outside work and yards and stuff and, blah. But nothing, unfortunately, nothing spooky. At least not that I know of. Maybe Saturday could be. I don't know.
I mean, sometimes, you disappear and time just disappears, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's my point. Maybe that's what happened. It might have been paranormal, but probably not. I'm just getting old. Don't remember things anymore. I didn't write it down, so I don't remember it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all's well here, so no big deal.
Good.
So, probably should get to the spooky stuff, though, right? Speaking of it.
Yeah.
Is that what we're supposed to do?
It's called Paranormal Lens, right? So You know,
Oh, not ghost stuff. Gotcha.
not yet anyway. We didn't get outvoted yet, but it might be a time. You never
It's
know.
2-2. It's okay.
Yeah, we need that third voice, our fifth voice, to get the third vote. Yeah, and I can easily be persuaded with ice cream. So I don't know.
All right. So, what's your favorite flavor?
I can't tell you that. That's too much. But
Gotcha. It's tea berry.
they're pretty. Oh, it is not. That is one no.
That is my favorite.
Paranormal Lens. It is. Okay, great.
Oh man, Rocky Road.
Honestly, I'm not overly particular about tea berry. Hey, no.
See, I like tea berry. It's so good.
I got fooled by that once, thinking it was black raspberry, and no.
Yeah.
It seems like it's like somebody's cruel joke. It just kind of stuck somehow.
It's okay. As my husband says, I can go and enjoy my Pepto-Bismol ice cream.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Alex is not wrong, for the record.
So, before you get started, Stefan said hi earlier, and then a wave from Bert. So, and I'm not sure when Stefan agreed with the but probably getting old and have to write stuff down. And then
Bert gave it away. There it is. So it's not maple ice cream; it's maple creamy.
Okay.
Soft serve maple from Vermont, preferably, definitely is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But
noted.
There's many others that are close next. So anyway. Now I want to get back to Vermont. Great, thanks, Bert. All right, road trip.
Yep.
Yeah. So. I love this comment. Jamie is from Heather. Jamie, the same thing happened to me. It ruined ice cream for a while for me. And absolutely, right? You're like, you don't trust anybody anymore.
Listen, here's my thing. There is only one tea berry ice cream that I will always go for because it's the best. There's other tea berry ice creams I'm like, nah, okay. But growing up, I used to go to an ice cream parlor called Heisler's. And it's like out in like the Tamaqua area. They have the best tea berry ice cream, and that is my go-to all the time.
I think we'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's creamy and it's good. It's 10 out of 10.
Wow. It's good to know that there is a best worst thing out there. That's cool.
It's good to know that your opinion's wrong, Jamie.
On that note,
all right. So, back to the spooky stuff. So
yes.
Let's turn the paranormal lens toward the abduction of Barney and Betty Hill, which is our topic for tonight. As always, we start with the where. We are going to be somewhere on Route 3 South near Lancaster and rural New Hampshire. And the when is September 19th, the night of September 19th. Technically, it could be the 20th, I guess, depending on how you perceive that, in 1961. So we'll go from here. If I can find my mouse, I lost it. Oh my goodness. Technical issues, please stand by. There it is. All right. So history often remembers people for a single extraordinary moment. Before that, however, they are simply people living ordinary lives. In 1961, Betty and Barney Hill fit that description perfectly. They were respected members in their community in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Barney worked for the United States Postal Service and served on the local board of the NAACP. Betty, intelligent and outspoken, worked as a social welfare investigator and was equally active in civil rights causes. Friends described them as practical, compassionate, and deeply committed to helping others. They were also something that drew unwanted attention in early 1960s America, an interracial married couple. Barney was African American, Betty was white. Their marriage, while legal in New Hampshire, was still considered controversial throughout much of the United States. In many states, interracial marriage remained illegal until the Supreme Court's Loving v. Virginia decision in 1967, so many years from then. Even where it was legal, prejudice often followed them. The Hills knew what it meant to be stared at in restaurants, questioned by strangers, or treated differently simply because they loved one another. They learned to ignore the whispers. Those who knew them well often remarked that Betty possessed an endless curiosity. She enjoyed reading newspapers, discussing current events, and exploring new ideas. Barney balanced her enthusiasm with a quieter, analytical personality. He preferred evidence over speculation and had little patience for sensational claims. I think I'd like him. Neither considered themselves believers in flying saucers. Like millions of Americans during the late 50s and early 60s, they had heard stories of mysterious lights in the sky. Newspapers occasionally reported sightings. Television programs debated whether extraterrestrial visitors could exist. The Cold War had filled American skies with secret military aircraft, experimental balloons, and growing public anxiety. Most unusual lights eventually found ordinary explanations. The Hills expected nothing different. So on September 19th, 1961, had offered them a welcome escape. The couple had spent several days traveling through Canada, visiting Niagara Falls and Montreal before beginning the drive back to New Hampshire. It had been relaxing, a chance to leave work behind and enjoy the changing colors of early autumn. That Sunday, by that evening on the 19th, they found themselves driving through northern New Hampshire. The white mountains stretched around them like dark silhouettes beneath the clear sky. The roads were quiet. Few cars traveled that late at night, and Barney enjoyed driving after sunset. Without city lights, thousands of stars filled the heavens. The Milky Way appeared as a glowing ribbon stretching from horizon to horizon. Every so often, Betty pointed toward a constellation she recognized. The atmosphere felt peaceful. Neither of them realized that decades later, millions of people would know this lonely highway by heart. Near Lancaster, New Hampshire, Betty noticed something unusual. It appeared at first to be nothing more than a bright point of light moving across the sky. Perhaps a satellite. Perhaps an airplane. Nothing remarkable. Still, something about its movement caught her attention. Unlike the commercial aircraft they occasionally spotted, this light seemed to change direction unexpectedly. It grew brighter, then dimmer, then brighter again. Curious, Betty leaned closer to the windshield. "Did you see that?" Barney glanced upward. "Probably a plane." Satisfied with the explanation, he returned his attention to the road. Betty continued watching. Several miles later, the object was still there. Now it seemed impossible to ignore. Instead of disappearing behind the mountains, it appeared to follow them. Whenever the road curved, the light seemed to remain in roughly the same position. It was probably coincidence. Yet coincidence has a way of becoming unsettling when it repeats itself. The farther they drove, the more Betty became convinced something wasn't right. Eventually, curiosity overcame caution. The Hills pulled off at off the highway near a scenic overlook. The surrounding forest stood still. Only insects and a cool mountain breeze disturbed the stillness. Betty stepped outside first. She retrieved a pair of binoculars from the trunk. Looking through them, she immediately realized the object appeared larger than she had expected. Far larger. She handed the binoculars to Barney. He examined the light carefully. At first, it resembled an aircraft. Then it didn't. Instead of maintaining a steady course, the object seemed to move in abrupt, almost deliberate motions. It drifted upwards, stopped, moved sideways, paused again. No ordinary airplane behaved that way. The object continued approaching. Barney's curiosity slowly transformed into concern. Back inside the car, they resumed driving. So did the object. As Route 3 wound its way through Francona Notch, the mysterious object seemed to descend lower toward the highway. Both Betty and Barney watched it now. Conversation faded. Every mile seemed to shrink the distance. The object no longer resembled a distant star. It appeared structured, disc-shaped. Its light shifted in intensity as though rotating around its edge. Barney later estimated that it descended to only a few hundred feet above the ground. He could no longer convince himself it was simply an airplane. The object suddenly accelerated, then stopped. No gradual turn, no banking movement, just impossible speed followed by complete stillness. The Hills had never witnessed anything remotely like it. Near Indian Head, Barney pulled off the road once more. This time he wanted a closer look. Leaving the engine running, he stepped into the darkness carrying the binoculars. The forest around him was unnervingly quiet. He crossed toward the open field. The object appeared larger with every step, much larger. It drifted silently overhead. Later, Barney would estimate it measured somewhere between 60 and 100 feet across. Its metallic surface reflected moonlight. Rows of illuminated windows circled the craft. Then something happened that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Looking through the binoculars, Barney believed he could see figures inside. Humanoid figures. Moving. Watching him. One figure seemed to step forward. The being appeared to stare directly into his eyes. In that instant, Barney felt overwhelmed by a single terrifying certainty. Whatever this object was, it knew they were there. Fear replaced curiosity. Barney lowered the binoculars and ran to the car. "They're going to capture us," he shouted. Betty looked at him in disbelief. Before she could ask another question, Barney started the engine and accelerated down the highway. Behind him, the mysterious object continued its silent pursuit. The hills had escaped the object, or so they believed. Barney pressed the accelerator harder. The winding road through the White Mountains disappeared beneath the headlights of their Chevrolet as it sped south. His heart pounded so loudly he barely heard Benny calling his name. "What did you see?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the rearview mirror. The object was still there. It moved effortlessly above the trees, matching their speed without any visible means of propulsion. There was no roar of engines, no flashing navigation lights like those of an airplane, only a steady glow suspended against the black sky. Then it darted forward. Within seconds, it was directly above the car. A sharp, buzzing sound suddenly filled the air. It was like anything either of them had heard before. The noise seemed to come from everywhere at once, vibrating through the roof, the windows, and even the steering wheel. The entire vehicle trembled. Almost instinctively, Barney slammed on the brakes. Silence. The buzzing stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Both of them blinked. For a brief moment, neither spoke. Betty looked around in confusion. "Did you hear that?" Before Barney could answer, the strange sound came back. Louder. Longer. The vibration seemed to pass directly through them. Then, nothing. The next clear memory either of them had was driving many miles further south. The mysterious object was gone. The road looked unfamiliar. Neither could explain how they had reached that point. Barney glanced at the dashboard clock. Something didn't make sense. Far more time had passed than the drive should have taken. Nearly 2 hours had vanished. They tried reconstructing the journey. Had they stopped somewhere? Perhaps fallen asleep? Maybe taken a wrong turn? Nothing fit. The missing time sat between their memories like a blank page torn from a book. Neither wanted to admit how unsettling the realization felt. Instead, they focused on reaching home. The drive continued in uneasy silence. By the time the Hills pulled into their driveway in Portsmouth, exhaustion had replaced fear. Yet as they unpacked the car, they began noticing small details that refused to make sense. Barney's best dress shoes, shoes he had worn only for the trip, were badly scuffed. The leather looked scraped as though he had walked over rough stone or gravel. He couldn't remember doing anything that might have caused the damage. His binocular strap was torn. Betty's favorite blue dress was also changed. At first she assumed it simply wrinkled during the long drive, but then she examined it more closely. She noticed several tears along the zipper and hem. The fabric was stained with a pinkish powder. Weeks later, after washing the dress several times, the stains remained. Then there was the trunk of the car. Barney noticed several shiny circular spots on the metal surface. Each circle measured only a few inches across. The marks hadn't been there before the trip. Curious, Betty held a compass near one of the circles. The needle spun wildly. Then she moved the compass away, and it pointed north again. She repeated the experiment. The same thing happened. The circles appeared to affect the compass in ways neither of them understood, and for this they had no explanation. So life returned to normal, for at least a while. They went back to work, visited friends, they attended meetings, they smiled politely whenever someone asked about their vacation, but beneath the surface something had changed. Within days, Betty began having vivid dreams. Unlike ordinary dreams, these felt extraordinarily detailed. She awoke remembering conversations, faces, rooms, and sensation with startling clarity. In the dreams, she and Barney were stopped by small humanoid beings. The figures escorted them aboard a strange craft. There, the couple was separated. Medical examinations followed. Needles, bright lights, unfamiliar instruments. Betty remembers one figure speaking calmly, almost reassuringly, while others observed silently. One being showed her a map filled with stars connected by lines. She had asked where they came from. The being smiled. You wouldn't know. Each morning she wrote every detail in a notebook before the memories faded. The dreams disturbed her, but she did not immediately believe they were literal memories. Instead, she wondered whether they were her mind's attempt to explain the frightening events on the highway. If Betty wanted answers, Barney wanted only to forget. He rarely discussed the encounter. Whenever Betty mentioned the strange object, he changed the subject. Friends noticed he seemed unusually tense. His cheerful personality faded. He complained of headaches. He slept poorly. Sometimes he woke in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. The images of the figures watching him through the craft's windows returned again and again. He began checking the locks in the house before bed, then checked them a second time. Occasionally, Betty caught him staring silently through the living room window into the darkness. What are you looking for? He never had an answer. Betty's curiosity eventually overcame her hesitation. She contacted nearby military officials to report the unusual object they had seen. She also reached out to civilian UFO organizations, hoping someone else might have witnessed the strange craft over New Hampshire that night. Investigators interviewed the couple. Most listened politely. Some remained skeptical. Others believed the Hills had experienced something genuinely unusual, even if they couldn't identify it. The reports brought more questions than answers. As months passed, the emotional toll grew heavier. Barney's anxiety worsened, and his health continued to decline. He suffered from high blood pressure, recurring stomach pain, and nightmares that left him exhausted. Betty still wondered about the 2 missing hours and the dreams she had carefully recorded in her notebook. Doctors struggled to explain his stress. By the winter of 1963, more than 2 years had passed since the strange drive through New Hampshire. Time had softened some memories, but had not eased the anxiety. Finally, the couple sought help from Boston psychiatrist Dr. Benjamin Simon. Simon was no believer in extraterrestrials. During World War II, he had treated soldiers suffering from severe combat trauma and believed many frightening experiences could become buried within the subconscious. His goal wasn't to prove alien visitation. It was to determine why Betty and Barney remained haunted by that September night. Dr. Simon approached the case with caution. His goal was simple: to help his patients, nothing more. He proposed using hypnosis. The sessions would take place separately. Neither spouse would hear the other's recollections until much later. It was an unusual approach, but Simon hoped it would reveal whether hidden memories, dreams, or psychological trauma lay behind the mystery. If their stories matched, Simon believed it would be significant. If they differed, he might suggest that imagination had filled in the missing pieces. Neither Betty nor Barney could have imagined where these sessions would lead. When Barney relaxed under hypnosis, the memories, or what felt like memories, returned with startling emotion. His voice trembled. His breathing became rapid. More than once, Simon had to calm him before continuing. Barney described driving along Route 3 when the craft descended toward the car. The road disappeared beneath a brilliant light. The engine seemed to lose power. Several small figures approached. They wore dark uniforms and black caps. Although human in shape, they did not look entirely human. Their skin appeared gray. Their eyes seemed unusually large. Their noses were little more than small ridges. Their mouths barely moved when they spoke. Barney remembered feeling completely unable to resist. The beings guided him toward the craft. His feet moved, but not because he wanted them to. He later recalled feeling as though his body was no longer belonging to him. The memory terrified him. Even under hypnosis, tears streamed down his face. Dr. Simon later remarked that Barney's emotional reactions appeared genuine, whether or not the memories represented literal events. Betty's recollections were calmer. She remembered walking up a ramp into a brightly lit circular room. Everything inside appeared smooth and curved. There were no sharp corners. The walls seemed almost seamless. Several small beings greeted her. Unlike Barney, she recalled speaking with one individual who she later referred to as their leader. The examination began. She lay on a table while beings carefully observed her. They examined her ears, her mouth, her eyes, her hands. Then one being produced a long needle. Betty panicked. The needle was inserted into her abdomen. She cried out in pain. Seeing her distress, the leader passed his hand across her forehead. Almost instantly, the pain disappeared. Years later, some researchers would compare this account to modern amniocentesis, a prenatal procedure that was virtually unknown to the public in 1961. Whether coincidence or something more remained impossible to determine. Before leaving the craft, Betty asked countless questions. Who were they? Where had they come from? Why had they chosen her and Barney? The leader answered only some of them. Others were met with silence. Then came the detail that would fascinate investigators for decades. The leader showed Betty a three-dimensional map. It appeared suspended in space. Bright stars connected by lines. Some lines were thicker than others. Betty asked what the lines represented. Were they trade routes? Maybe travel paths? The leader smiled. Those are the places we go. After returning home, Betty attempted to recreate what she had seen. Her drawing was rough. Many considered it meaningless. Years later, though, an amateur astronomer named Marjorie Fish studied Betty's sketches for years. Using star catalogs and transparent models, she proposed that the pattern resembled the views from the Zeta Reticuli star system about 39 light years from Earth. To believers, it was remarkable. How could Betty have drawn such a map years before detailed three-dimensional stellar data became widely available? To skeptics, the match depended heavily on interpretation. Other astronomers argued that many different star patterns could be made to resemble Betty's drawing if viewed from enough angles. And that debate continues today. As word of the Hill story slowly spread among UFO researchers, investigators searched for physical evidence that might support or disprove their claims. The mysterious circles on the trunk of the Chevrolet attracted attention. The torn dress was examined. So were Barney's damaged shoes. The compass reaction Betty had observed intrigued some investigators, though repeated tests produced inconclusive results. No laboratory analysis uncovered definitive proof of an extraterrestrial encounter. Yet no ordinary explanation accounted for every detail either. Meanwhile, the Hill's descriptions of the beings remained strikingly consistent over time. Large wraparound eyes, small noses, thin mouths, hairless heads. At the time, these features differed from the spacemen commonly portrayed in the 1950s science fiction, who were often depicted as ordinary-looking humans in shiny suits. It's long before CGI, right? Ironically, the Hill's descriptions would later become the template for what is now recognized around the world as the classic gray alien. Whether they inspired later reports or reflected something genuinely experienced remains one of the most enduring questions surrounding this case. And for several years, Betty and Barney tried to keep their experience private. Only close friends, the investigators, and Dr. Simon knew the full story. Then, in 1965, everything changed. A newspaper obtained details of the hypnosis sessions and published them without the Hill's permission. Within days, reporters descended upon Portsmouth. Telephones rang constantly. Journalists requested interviews. Photographers appeared outside their home. The Hills had never wanted fame. Now they had become reluctant celebrities. Soon afterward, author John G. Fuller published The Interrupted Journey, bringing their account to a national audience. The book became a bestseller. Radio programs discussed the case. Television producers requested appearances. Scientists debated it. Skeptics challenged it. Believers embraced it. The Hills found themselves caught in the middle of all of it. Despite the attention, they rarely embellished their story. When they admitted uncertainty, they said so. When they remembered something different years later, they acknowledged it. That honestly impressed even some investigators who doubted the extraordinary conclusions. By the late 1960s, Benny and Barney Hill had become household names among people interested in UFOs. Their story spread through newspapers, magazines, television documentaries, and late-night radio programs. It inspired heated debates at dinner tables and university lecture halls alike. Some people accepted every detail without question. Others dismissed the entire account as fantasy. Most fell somewhere in between. Scientists pointed out the lack of definitive physical evidence. Psychologists suggested that stress, dreams, and hypnosis could create vivid memories that felt entirely real. UFO researchers countered that the Hill's testimony remained remarkably consistent over time and contained details that seemed difficult to explain away. This debate had no clear winner. Instead, it became one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century. For decades, discussions about the Hills focused almost exclusively on UFOs. But as historians looked more closely at Betty and Barney's lives, another story emerged, one that had been overshadowed by flying saucers and missing time. The Hills were civil rights activists living during one of the most turbulent periods of American history. They were an interracial couple in an era when many Americans believed such marriages should not exist. During their travels, they often had to think carefully about where they could stop safely for gas, eat a meal, or spend the night. Even in places where they were legally welcome, they could not always count on being treated with dignity. That constant vigilance took a psychological toll. Modern scholars have suggested that understanding the Hills' experiences required acknowledging those pressures. Whether or not an extraordinary event occurred in the White Mountains, Betty and Barney were already navigating a world filled with uncertainty, discrimination, and fear. Their story is therefore not just about the possibility of visitors from another world, it's also about life in America during the Civil Rights Movement. The two narratives cannot easily be separated. Now, more than 60 years after that September night, investigators still revisit this evidence. The damaged shoes, the torn dress, the compass corrections, missing time, the hypnosis sessions, the star map, and each clue has inspired countless theories. Some researchers believe the Hills encountered an advanced military aircraft operating in secret. Others argue that fatigue, stress, and expectation combined to create false memories reinforced during hypnosis. Still others maintain that the Hills experienced the first well-documented alien abduction in modern history. None of these explanations answer every question. If the experience was psychological, why did certain details remain so consistent over decades? If it was extraterrestrial, why was no conclusive physical proof? Every proposed solution leaves loose ends. Perhaps that is why the case continues to fascinate investigators. It resists simple conclusions. Well, whether true or mistaken, or somewhere in between, the Hills account changed the way people described encounters with the unknown. Before 1961, reports of strange lights in the sky often focused on mysterious aircraft. After the Hills story became public, reports increasingly included missing time, medical examinations, small gray beings with large eyes, communication through thought rather than speech, brightly lit circular craft, and feelings of paralysis or helplessness. Today, these details are familiar to almost anyone who has heard of alien abductions. Many researchers believe later witnesses were influenced by the Hills' widely publicized case. Others argue that similarities suggest people around the world experience the same phenomenon independently. Either way, Betty and Barney established the blueprint that countless later encounters would follow. Despite worldwide attention, Betty and Barney remained remarkably grounded. Neither sought wealth from their experience. Neither claimed to possess secret knowledge about extraterrestrial civilizations. When asked difficult questions, they answered honestly, even when the answer was, "I don't know." Barney continued working for the Postal Service while remaining active in civil causes, while his health declined, forcing him to slow down. Sadly, he passed away in 1969 at only 46 years old from complications related to a cerebral hemorrhage. Those who knew him remembered a thoughtful, compassionate man whose life became forever linked to a mystery he never asked to experience. Betty lived for another 39 years. Rather than retreating from public life, she became one of the best-known lecturers on the UFO community. She spoke not as someone claiming to have all the answers, but as someone trying to understand an event that had changed her life forever. She passed in 2004. Neither Betty nor Barney ever changed the central facts of what they believe had happened the night in New Hampshire. On clear autumn evenings in New Hampshire, Route 3 still winds through the White Mountains much as it did in 1961. The forests remain quiet. The stars still fill the sky. Travelers pass through without giving much thought to the lonely stretch of highway where one ordinary couple had an extraordinary event. Perhaps nothing unusual happened there. Perhaps everything did. No investigation has settled the question. The mystery survives because it lives in the space between certainty and possibility. For believers, Betty and Barney Hill opened humanity's eyes to the idea that we may not be alone in the universe. For skeptics, They serve as a powerful reminder of how memory, trauma, and the human mind can shape our understanding of extraordinary events. For historians, they represent something equally important: the courageous interracial couple whose lives reflected both the promise and struggles of America during the Civil Rights era. And for storytellers, it remains one of the most compelling mysteries ever told. On one quiet September night, two ordinary people drove home beneath a sky filled with stars. When they arrived, they carried with them a story that would challenge scientists, inspire generations of researchers, and forever alter the world's imagination. Whether the truth lies in the heavens, in the depths of the human mind, or somewhere in between, Betty and Barney Hill left us with a question that still echoes across the decades. What really happened on that lonely road through the White Mountains? To close, history is filled with mysteries that may never be solved. The Betty and Barney Hill case endures because it resists easy explanations. It is at once a deeply personal story of two thoughtful people, a landmark in UFO folklore, a reflection of Cold War America, and an often overlooked chapter in the history of the civil rights movement. Their experience has inspired books, documentaries, scientific inquiry, psychological debate, and countless investigations. Yet, despite decades of scrutiny, no single explanation has satisfied everyone. Perhaps that is the true legacy of Betty and Barney Hill. They remind us that curiosity is one of humanity's defining traits. We look toward the stars because we want to understand our place in the universe. We investigate the unexplained not only to find answers, but because asking questions is part of what makes us human. And somewhere, on a quiet stretch of road beneath the White Mountains, the night sky continues to invite those questions. Let me cite my sources and we'll discuss. First, the Boston Public Library, The Abduction of Betty and Barney Hill, allthat'sinteresting.com, Betty and Barney Hill, inside their infamous alien abduction, the Yale University Press, The Alien Abduction Story of Two Civil Rights Activists, John G. Fuller, his book The Interrupted Journey from 1966, and Dr. Benjamin Simon from Dr. Simon's Files, The Case of Betty and Barney Hill, also from 1996, not from 1966 and 1996 are totally different. Whew. All right, that was a lot, right, guys?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! But this is that one thing that started a lot of other things. No one thought about it in the moment.
All right.
I knew.
If you'll indulge me for a second, Jamie, I found that star chart that you discussed earlier.
Okay.
Ooh.
The one on the left is the one that Betty drew after her hypnosis.
Yep.
And the one on the right is Marjorie Fish's star chart. And the one there's a triangle of 3 stars to the left. And the one of those on the right was not discovered until 1969. So she drew a star map with a star that we didn't know existed.
Well, it existed, but we couldn't see.
Right. We didn't know it was there.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's pretty interesting. And it's pretty close to the fish star chart.
Yeah, it is. I've seen this as well. It is really cool. The things, the details that they share, and a lot of the details came from being under hypnosis, not from direct recollection. At least what they because time went by, 2 years almost, well, 2 full years actually went by between the event and before this therapy session started with Dr. Simon. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things memories fade, things change. I think Betty's best asset to this whole thing was her notebook, first of all. And recording dreams. And I know a lot of people do that, right? There's a lot of ways to interpret that. Therefore, there's, you really want to go down a rabbit hole, go to the bookstore and start looking for books on dream interpretation. There's a shelf full of them, and everybody has an opinion on what something means. But the idea that she's trying to document this reoccurrence in her mind, in her subconscious mind anyway, while she's sleeping is a true asset to the rest of it. And it lets, her curiosity allows her to continue not letting it go, because Barney sure wanted to, he was trying to let it out of sight, out of mind. Let's just forget about it. This is every guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay with, I get it. I'm saying it as a guy. So, but that persistence that Betty carried, that curiosity and the inquisitiveness that she had by nature allowed her to continue this, to get them to the place where they actually got it out. and that's an asset to all of us, and that's really cool. I think that's to me is the most interesting piece of this, and the fact that these stories, I've been interested in UFOs since I was a kid. Growing up in the early '70s, Project Blue Book had just closed, so it was still of mind. UFO stuff was starting to become more pop culture-y kind of stuff.
Do you remember?
1977 brought,
Remember the Cat from Outer Space, the Disney movie?
it's a Disney movie, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, live
What?
action. There was quite a few of those.
yeah,
The Return to Witch Mountain, all that stuff.
yeah.
But 1977 changed a lot of things with Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned through this what the other two that there's two before I've third. The third kind. The first kind is you see something strange happens. The second time is there's some kind of residual effort left behind. Something like proof of a landing, maybe indented ground, perhaps, or charred ground. But third is physical contact, and I never questioned that before, but now I know.
Interesting.
But we, and then Star Wars and everything else, like we've always been looking up and making it into media of some kind for entertainment. But this was real, and this I honestly I think something happened out there. I can't prove that it was an abduction, and certainly many can't because of it. But if you're a believer, why not? It's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think this is the first good documented case. I don't think it's the first case at all. I think we go
No.
way, way, way back in history.
Agreed.
The technology that we had that we've forgotten and have, I think it goes way back. But this is a really cool story. I did find out something when I looked this up to find this picture. I found an article in the province from where was it? Vancouver, British Columbia. And Betty was more apt to believe this because her sister had an encounter that she reported,
Ooh.
which her husband was like saying, "Oh no, it's an airplane, it's a helicopter." But Betty's sister had an encounter that she had reported. So maybe it's a family thing.
Could be.
And did you know they had a dachshund with them, Jamie, in the
Yes,
car?
it did.
Wait, the dog was in the car.
Dog was in the car. So maybe the dog was an alien.
Maybe that's what attracted him.
And it was, I don't know.
Delcy was the dog's name.
But the dog was fine.
The dog is fine. Yes.
Great. Okay.
Yep.
As long as the dog's fine.
So what do you guys think? I mean, I overall, like, it's a phenomenal story. And if you haven't heard of this before, I know it may take a moment to digest it, but in Kirstin specific, I guess I'm probably talking to you because Chad and I have already discussed this a little bit, but what do you think?
I mean, I've seen, like, read a few articles and I've listened to a few podcasts on this. I feel like, again, when they went under the hypnosis and they were doctors that were kind of like pointing to the fact of, they're like, no, they're not faking these reactions. Like, it's actual trauma responses. I can't imagine just someone being able to flip a switch and have those trauma responses. I think it actually happened. Like, I think the abduction was real, and somehow their psyches kind of buried what happened. And when people started trying to uncover it more, it brought those memories up, which is how we kind of got some of that evidence. The other thing is, the circular designs on the car. I don't even know how to explain that, like, out of nowhere.
Yeah, and it really isn't explained very well. Like, as far as is it residual energy from the craft being in proximity? Why was it only on the trunk? That makes you kind of think the trunk got opened somehow.
What comes to my mind is that's how they not attached, but that's how they connected with the car and
Okay.
So that there was contact between the car and the craft.
Sure. So, well, there's reference that the car lost power.
Right.
Appeared to lose power, so that's certainly possible.
So
was it? And what was it? Her dress had like a pink powder on it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm too young to know what the science was in the 60s, but I feel like they had a way to try and test to see what it was.
Hey, just for the record, I am too. Okay,
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
hold on a second.
Just throwing a jab at you too.
So Heather said that I've heard the story before, but never heard the dog was in the car.
Yeah, I never knew that actually.
It was a family trip, right? And then the dog goes with. This was a time, and New England is very pet friendly.
Man,
Vermont, but,
where was the dog whisperer? Could have been like, this is what the dog saw.
Yeah. Did anybody try to talk to the dog? Right. No.
Right.
No.
Another thing that I see in this article is apparently Barney had dentures, and they really surprised the examiners.
Yeah.
So it's fun little things like that. And it's this article says that he had tears in his eyes when he was under hypnosis.
Yeah.
So I think that's really that's a sub-level reaction to something that happened. So I think it's really I think there's no question that this happened in my mind.
Yeah. And Dr. Simon really can't disprove that. And that's kind of part of the process. It was really, if there are inconsistencies or if there are gaps and, the whole, what's the word I want to use here? Not inconclusive, but inconsistent reporting, because they did this over a long time. It wasn't a session. This was many over months. So, the idea that there are control questions that are asked, and they coming back to those, and if the answers remain the same, then the standard is set, and that part never changed, and that led him to believe it was a real true event of some kind anyway. And obviously, he can't get to the details because it's their memory, but it gave him no reason to believe it was not true. That to me is the amazing part, and the consistencies of their explanations through the years. They didn't change anything. People tend to embellish. We tend to be the heroes of our own stories, and I've said that here so many times before, I guess. But so the stories are, and we play to the audience that we're speaking to. They didn't change this, and they didn't need to, because it was real. It was true. I agree with you, Chad. I think this happened. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, my thought process is, there's so many galaxies out there that we don't even know how many there are. I fully am in the one of, I do not believe that we are the only intelligent living beings around. And who really knows? There's beings out there that are probably years in advance of where we are at currently. Like, some of them could be coming here and going, oh, look, this is like cavemen. Like,
sure.
So
some would say they're already here.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that I've read is they're among us, and we just don't know it because they don't want us to know it.
I mean, the amount of like fighter pilots that will have like accounts of like, I saw something up in the sky, but I was told by the government to not say anything.
Well, it's not just that. It's commercial pilots as well.
Yeah.
I'll go back indulge me here. I'm going to go back to the Alaska Triangle episode, but one of the pieces of it was that a Japanese airliner, a commercial flight that was bringing cargo over, when they were over eastern Alaska, they believed they were followed by up to 3 different unique unidentified flying objects. One of them created a blinding bright white light, and then created a heat that they felt in the cockpit. Ooh. And then those first 2 dissipated, and a third larger craft followed them for 50 minutes on their clock, and then it just simply went away. So that was back in 1986. So that's not that far ago, and it's certainly they are credible. I would say, anybody who makes it into a commercial pilot seat should be a credible source if they say they saw something or experienced something.
Yeah.
And many of them were, this is the kind of the way it works. A lot of those folks were former military pilots who retired and moved on to another career path in the outside world. Here it is. Yes, Stefan said the prime directive. Yes, sir. live long and prosper. Um, and that's possibly it. I'll say something else to this. I'm interested in UFO stuff, and I
Mhm.
have been for a very long time. So I've done some reading, I've done some research, and I have some episodes teed up later this year. One I think we're going to love doing. Um, but one of the things that I always seem to see is that things come in waves, and like there's windows of time, like years, a year or two. Or there's couple cases where there's a summer. Like it seems like there's months just of activity all happening at once.
Mhm.
And the theory behind that is, it takes time to get between places. So somebody, if you're going to go out, send a couple things out with you. Don't just go by yourself.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's a big planet, but we've had encounters, that people have documented all around the world, and no
Hmm.
continent is safe from it. No place is safe from having some experience of some kind. And it's really comes to, and there have been a lot of organizations along the way that have been formed, that have brought together people of like interest to share experiences through. um, and well, actually one of them was really interesting. A a group was founded through the University of Colorado back in 1967 or 68, I forget which one, that was meant to really prove or disprove the presence of UFOs. And the director, a guy named Condon, really didn't believe, but he was a scientist, so he took it from a scientific approach. And they didn't interview people; they just kind of took things as face value. And their report came out in like '69 or so, and it really just poo-pooed the fact that UFOs exist at all. And that kind of became like accepted because science said so. And but not the experience of the people in the field, the individuals like you and I or anybody going outside and like the hills, having something genuinely happen to them was discredited, and almost out of hand. And it was an interesting spin because there's a gap. And then the interesting part of that theory or that study was that it was funded by the Air Force. So cue the conspiracy theory, right?
Mhm.
Right away. And Project Blue Book was and we talked about a few other the earlier initiatives before Project Blue Book in a past episode as well. But the government's had their hand in a lot of this along the way. And I don't want to sound like one of those tin hat guys here, but
Right.
if they're saying no, they know more than we, and therefore maybe there is something true. I will always objectively listen to the experience of the person first, and not take the final thought from someone who's not been there as the fact.
Hmm.
And I think that's important for all of us. That's us as investigators in the paranormal world in general, right?
Right.
We're there. We're trying to understand. We're asking questions to understand things that are beyond us. And how do we figure it out? Well, we get there and we engage it. We talk to the people who experienced it. We try to go to the place where it happened. And that's the one thing that seemed to be lacking in all of that in the past was there was no field surveys. There was no field work. They just didn't go. They just
Right.
documented things. And it wasn't enough proof in the documentation because they didn't go to the field to get the evidence.
Did you know that the United Nations has an Office for Outer Space Affairs?
Far out, man.
It's the front is definitely that it's to make sure that there's fair access to outer space for all the countries. But is there another part of that that's for communication with other things?
Listen,
You got
there's
to
a
wonder.
reason why we have Space Force now.
Hmm. So there's just so many interesting things that are tied to this. So
I thought the Space Force was to combat Dr. Evil and his frickin' space lasers.
Freaking space lasers.
so
All right, maybe not.
so well, Jamie, this is definitely an interesting episode. I'm sure that we could jump off this many different directions
Of course, yeah.
and yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's the first in a lot of different investigations throughout the years on interactions. And I sort of wonder if things come in waves because maybe a window opens or an opportunity opens to travel here more easily, or maybe it's a season, just like we have seasons here on Earth where we plant and we do different things. Like maybe
Sure.
it's a season that things can get here more easily. So,
I hope we find out someday.
hmm
I really do. Until then, we got to keep looking up.
Mm-hmm. Never stop looking up. So, well, that's, like I said, really cool. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah. Good episode.
So, should we talk about what other episodes coming up?
Yeah, of course.
I guess.
Tag your it, Kirstin.
Oh no, it's my turn. Watch me mess this up. New season, same thing. All right. So
At
coming up
least,
next,
at least there's no sources to cite here.
Jamie, I can't give you the hand gesture I want.
You can.
We'll give you this one instead.
Perfect.
Well done, Stefan. Well done.
Perfect. All right. Coming up next week, I'm going to be covering Ganjiam Psychiatric Hospital in South Korea. It's going to be a fun one. It was a lot of digging around. So if anyone wants to kind of get in the spooky way for this and get prepared, there is a movie based on it, which makes it very hard to find actual true articles. But I found two and possibly one more. So it's going to be a good one to kind of talk about. And then coming up after that, on August 4th, Where the Mears Remember, The Haunting of Myrtle's Plantation, and that's with Chad. God, I've heard this one said twice, and I still don't know how to say it. But on August 11th, Jamie's going to talk about the Koiba Island penal colony. Was I right?
You got it.
Oh my God, I was right. August 18th, I'm going to be back with The Devil Made Me Do It, the Arnie Johnson trial. And then August 25th, we got Chad with The Soul Remembers Past Life Regression with a special guest, Desert Star, who is a friend of Chad's. Mm-hmm. September 1st, Jamie is going to be back with The Bennington Triangle. And then September 8th, I'm going to be doing Lizzie Borden. Doing a nice little cover about that.
Cool.
All right. And if you want to get in contact with us, there's a few ways that you can do that. The first one would be on www.jot-nixparanormal.com, or you can email us at info@paranormal-lens.com. You can also go ahead and check out our link tree. That's linktr.ee/paranormal lens. Or if you want to help support the show at all, you could also go to Buy Me a Coffee, and that is buymeacoffee.com/paranormal9. We also do have a QR code that is up on there, so if you're watching this, you can scan that, and it'll take you to the same place. But if you don't, and you still just want to keep watching us, that's all good.
And do want to shout out that this coming weekend is the Gettysburg Bash.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually going to be able to get over there hopefully Friday afternoon, depending on work. And then I'm looking at going Sunday afternoon for a little while. I'm not sure about you guys, but there's lots of good people over there we're going to see. So.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get over on Sunday too. So I'd say Saturday, but I'm outside at a Ren fair. So, yeah.
I hate to say this, but I think I'm going to make it on Saturday instead. So it looks like it might be my better option for a busy weekend as well.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the afternoon, and back in time for a show. The kids in the show Saturday night, so seems like it always falls on this weekend every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're graduating, so this will be the
this is actually it. Yeah, we're getting down to the end, right?
So, but yeah, and I saw that Hanover Tavern sent out some more information about upcoming things. It's one of our favorite places. So, if you get a chance, check out their stuff. We'd like to shout them out whenever we can. So, we're hoping to run into Steve this weekend. So,
they can find him, right?
He will disappear. He's like Jerry. Where's Steve?
Yep. Where's Steve?
So. He is a social butterfly that wings never stop.
That's true.
Good for him.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've gone an hour exactly. So,
Ooh.
ready to wrap this up and okay.
Yeah.
So, more than 60 years later, the Hill case still raises questions that neither science nor speculation has fully answered. Sometimes the greatest mysteries aren't the ones we've solved, they're the ones that keep us searching. So, thank you for watching the Paranormal Lens. We hope you'll join us again next Tuesday for another live investigation. Until next time, stay alert, stay respectful, and stay curious. Good night, everybody.